What is fascism? Fascism is the most misquoted and misused word in modern politics. The word is used for dramatic effect, creating sensationalist articles and sound bites, as well as being used to smear your political opponents. Many of you watching this have your own definition of fascism, or what you think fascism is in your head. For the duration of this video, I ask you to park your preconceived notions as I attempt to dissect fascism in a non-partisan fashion. But before we begin, I'm History with Matt. If you're new here, liking and subscribing to the channel helps the channel out massively. So now, let's begin. If you're looking for me to define fascism in a couple of words, I would struggle to do so. But there are some core tenets to be aware of. Extreme ultranationalism, authoritarianism, sacrificing individualism for the group you belong to succeed against other groups, and third's positionist economics, which rejects capitalism and communism. Fascism is an extremely flexible ideology, one that can mold itself to any race, ethnicity, culture, and even religion. This is where the confusion stems from. It's like socialism in that regard. Due to it being such a massive ideology, with so many branches of it, one person's definition of an ideology can be radically different from someone else's. For example, in Romania, you had what was known as the Iron Guard, led by Corneliu Codreanu, who tied mysticism and orthodox religion into his messaging. Similarly in Spain, with the Falangist movement, led by José Antonio Primo de Vieira, which was deeply Catholic. However, the Nazis were anti-Christian, with leaders like Martin Bormann and Alfred Rosenberg being atheists, and opposing the church, as they viewed religion as threatening the state and the Führer. There could be no higher being than the Führer. This also brings up the question of were the Nazis fascist? The two terms are often used interchangeably, and as a pseudonym for one another. Hitler admired Mussolini, and styled his beer hall putsch on Mussolini's march on Rome. So are they the same? No. Are they similar? Definitely. I'm aware of how esoteric this can become, so I'm going to try my best to steer clear of areas where I may lose some of you. Fascism comes from the word fascis, which means a bundle of sticks. One stick on its own is weak and can be broken easily, but tied together with other sticks, the bundle becomes near unbreakable. This was the symbolism used by Benito Mussolini and his fascist party. If your country existed in the 1920s to the 1940s, your nation had some semblance of a fascist party, whether it be big or small. Fascism is also irredentist, which is the reuniting of people's lost land and bringing it into a single state. Fascists also preach autarky, or self-sufficiency, where the state must strive to be independent economically and politically. To fascists, there is no obligation to a people but your own. Fascism is inherently anti-democratic, though that does not mean that they do not participate in the democratic system. Look at Germany in 1933. No, they oppose liberalism and democracy as they view it that it pulls a nation apart, hindering the nation to progress and prosper. For liberalism, fascists view it as selfish, as it places emphasis on individualism and on individual needs, that destroys national unity and cohesion, which is why fascists pursue curtailing civil rights and liberties in order to further national pride and power. On economics, fascism is usually intertwined with corporatism. This is seen in Ireland, with the Irish Fascist Party being called the National Corporate Party. First off, corporatism is not fascism. Just because something exists within fascism does not mean it is fascist. You need everything together to create it. Corporatism is essentially an advocation for social class cooperation, rather than say Marxism, which preaches class conflict. Is fascism anti-Semitic? I say no, but again there are exceptions. Iron Guard Romania was anti-Jewish, and actually set up a lot of pogroms in Romania. When fascist Italy, Mussolini rejected Germany's call to send them their Jews. Mussolini even had a Jewish mistress. Fascism is big on aesthetics. Look at their rallies, their architecture, the symbols they use, speeches, ceremonies, etc. All come together to create the mystic power of the state. Fascists place a great deal of attention specifically to young men. They view men as the powerful in society, and as a society they view is in a constant struggle that needs violence, while women take their traditional roles being mothers and carers. A key factor in fascism is subordination to one leader. This leader is often charismatic, and is the personification of the state. They are the history of the state, the future of the state. Everything flows within them. Fascism was a product of its time. The First World War had destroyed Europe. The brutality of the conflict, and it happening in the most civilized part of the world, smashed the continent's psyche. From all across the nations of Europe that engaged in the war, the best of a generation were slaughtered, and what was truly gained? A war ravaged Europe, with men arriving home in caskets, or with the scars they brought from the battlefields. For Europe's future, it had been divided between democracy and communism. Democracy had proved unstable, to say the least. Look at France in the interwar period, and its constant formation and subsequent collapsing governments, while the Bolshevik Revolution was contained within the most of the now dead Russian Empire. This created a vacuum that allowed a third position to form: fascism. Men like Giovanni Gentile, often called the philosopher of fascism, who I suggest you read his works if you are curious, Italo Balbo, Dino Grandi, all sought to destroy the state and renew it from the ashes. Fascists believe in social Darwinism, that the strong will prevail and the weak will fall. This was during a time when intellectuals became enamored with fascist or fascist-light movements, race and nations, and of course eugenics. Collapsing economies, increased secularization, increased social tolerance, as well as decadence, all fueled the ideology's rise. So we'll finish with a thought of my own. If everyone is a fascist, who is a fascist? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed or learned something from the video, subscribe. As always, I've been History with Matt.